Hello, I'm Greg Harrison with USDA Market News Service here in St. Joe, Missouri with your National Feeder Cattle Summary this week. Looking at prices compared to last week, yearling cattle trading fully steady to $3 higher, in instances $5 higher, and that's mostly in cases in the northern plains, as most advance continues to be on the heavy yearlings weighing over 800 pounds. Good support continues from our fed cattle market last week, steady, and then this week we had some sales on Wednesday in Kansas at 161, which was steady with the week before, and that's given support to this yearling market. Steer and heifer calves trading mostly steady to instances $5 higher, and that's in markets where they're tested, and that's mostly through the Midwest. In a lot of markets this time of year simply don't have enough calves to test the market. Production areas you look at north of here and west of here simply don't have enough fall calving to test the markets, as old crop calves are long gone in these areas. And looking at the southeast markets, very uneven market, mostly lower this week in the southeast. A lot of markets 5 to 10 lower. Then there's some cases where you see some markets steady to 5 higher. Just kind of depends on where you're at in the southeast, but overall in the southeast, the market's mostly lower on the calves. Demand for calves continue to be good, especially with excellent grazing conditions around the country. Looking at range and pasture conditions, they're much improved over last year in the southern plains especially, and mostly in West Texas and Oklahoma have improved dramatically, where spring rains and storms, and many of them severe, have fallen lately, causing flooding conditions in areas of the southern plains. But you go back a year ago, 40% of the range and pasture conditions in Texas and Oklahoma were rated poor to very poor, and right now that stands around 10% rated poor to very poor at this time. 57% of our range and pasture conditions across the country are rated good to excellent, and that's compared to 46% last year. So feeder cattle prices have reacted accordingly to much improved grazing conditions in many areas of the country. And looking at our northern plains buyers aided feeder cattle prices over the last week. Last Friday in Harrod, South Dakota, they sold over 9,000 head, with over 400 head of 600 to 650 pound steers, averaging 627 pounds. They sold with a weighted average price of $270.16, and over 530 head of yearling steers weighing between 850 and 900 pounds sold with a weighted average weight of 881 pounds with a weighted average price of $217.13. Then last Saturday in Erickson, Nebraska, they sold over 3,000 head with a light test of 500 to 550 pound steers, averaging 512 pounds, sold with a weighted average price of $305.51. They sold over 430 head of yearling steers, averaging 816 pounds, that sold with a weighted average price of $225.60. And replacement heifers at that same sale, demand was very good. 100 head, averaging 830 pounds, sold with a weighted average price of $220.53. Choice box beef prices again this week hit another all-time high on Tuesday, with the choice product at $266.77 as additional pre-holiday buying activity continued. Looking at the next 6 weeks will be a good test to see if beef demand holds up with the start of the grilling season. As we have Memorial Day weekend is the start of the summer grilling season. One of the key factors going forward will be when retail promotions disappear, and how will overall cutout value hold up. It will take strong buying clearance and the need to replenish and own more inventory over the next 6 weeks to help hold values in place or near where they're at. But we still have Father's Day coming up and 4th of July on the horizon, so we should have hopefully good beef demand going forward through this period. Corn and soybean planting have had one of their most really nicest starts in several years. Corn planting is at 85% completed. That's compared to the 5-year average of 75%. And soybeans are at 45% completed compared to the 5-year average of 36%. And looking at a few regional weighted average prices in the north central region, 600-700 pound steers, about $1 lower than last week at $260.03. 700 to 800 pounds trading right at steady with last week at $234.25, and 800 to 900 pounds trading $5 higher at $218.36. We here at USDA Market News Service want to wish everyone a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend and want to say thank you to our servicemen and women, past and present, who have served our country, and to those who have paid the price that have for our freedoms and the freedoms of millions throughout the world. Again, we want to say thank you and have a good and safe Memorial Day weekend. Hope that makes